Hey folks, this is Cindy. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different with you and share some really clean and simple fall tags. These are so easy to make. You could use any kind of ink that you would like. You could easily mass produce them. There is no masking and only a tiny amount of coloring, so they're super duper easy and you could get them out the door in no time flat. So the first thing that we're going to be taking a look at here is the Hero Arts Color Layering Autumn Leaves stamp set. Now again, I've said in the past that I'm not a huge fan of color layering stamp sets, but look at this. You can definitely tell that my stamp set has seen some love. That's how easy it is to use. And then also I'm going to be using this tag die. This is from the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit that came out in June of 2016. If you don't have this, there's loads of other tag dies out there that you can use, and I'll have some of those linked over on my blog if you're interested in them. So now I have a piece of My Favorite Things Primitive Cream cardstock cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this is how I put it through my Big Shot. I put the tag die through first because it's longer, and then I put it back through again with that little insert since it can't all fit on the platform at one time, and that's what works best for me. But you do whatever works best for you. In fact, you could even leave off that little insert on the inside there. I use it because I always stamp my name on the back of my projects and I don't want that to show through. Now I'm going to be doing 3 of these. Again, one of them is with the My Favorite Things Primitive Cream cardstock, and the other 2 are on Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I love, love, love this tag die. I have used it a ton because it looks like, not just like a tag, but it also looks like a little miniature card, and I love that because to me it just feels like it's all in one. So after I have it die cut out, it does have a score line down the center of it so you can fold it. I just make sure to line everything up and reinforce that with my bone folder. And then I also add a little bit of temporary adhesive on the inside of it so nothing shifts around while I'm stamping it. And then I'm going to show you what those little inserts look like on the inside of the card, just like that. Again, you could leave that off, or you could always use it on the front side of it if that's what you'd like to do. Okay, so I'm going to get this set up in my Mini Misty stamping tool, and I have a little mark up there on the top left. So every time I put one of these tags in there, I know exactly where to line it up to. I have my tree in there already, and I have it a couple spaces up, and I have it hanging over the panel a little bit. I'm really trying to capitalize on as much white space on this as possible. That's what makes it clean and simple. And also, it just kind of looks better in the end. This is Hero Arts brown bark ink. I'm going to use that on 2 of my tags, and I'm making sure that I double stamp this because I want really nice solid images on all of them. Now I'm going to use Walnut Stain Distress Oxide ink. This is on the My Favorite Things Primitive Cream cardstock. You could use a darker cardstock if you'd like, if you're using the Distress Oxides, or if you're using another pigment ink, because it will stand out on those. Or you could stamp it first with a white pigment ink and then go over it again with another pigment ink, and it would be fabulous. So now I'm just lining up the first layer of my tree here, and honestly folks, I am just eyeballing it. I can kind of see that there is a break in the leaves where the center of the tree lines up. I'm not making sure that any of those leaves are touching any of the tips of the branches or anything like that. Just trying to get that center lined up there so it looks just about right. Now the first ink that I'm going to use is the Hero Arts Serengeti Sunset Ombre ink, and I'm going to make sure that my darkest color out of the 3 of those is on the bottom of my leaves. So it goes from darkest to lightest as you go towards the top of the tree. And I put it on there so it's right in the center, and then I shift it up once, shift it up down once, and then call it a day. Now for the second tag, I'm using Hero Arts Butter Bar ink. This is just a plain yellow ink. There's nothing plain about it, but this is just a single colored ink pad. I love it. And what was really cool about this is because I didn't completely clean my stamp from the first time, I could still kind of see some of the variation in the ombre ink. Now I'm using the Distress Oxide ink in Fossilized Amber, and I'm going to stamp that again on the Primitive Cream cardstock. And again, I am double stamping all of these. I want to make sure that they have really nice, solid coverage, and that's where the Misty is really handy. Now I have my second layer on there, and I'm going to get progressively darker as I go through all of these colors. So this one is going to be the Hero Arts Ombre Autumn ink pad, and this is probably my favorite ombre ink pad out of their entire line. I just love these colors. I want it to go from red on the bottom to the yellow goldish on top. And then I'm going to, again, make sure that I double stamp that because I want it nice and dark. You can still see how nice and pretty that is just the first time, but it's super duper once you stamp it the second. Now this is Hero Arts' Just Rust ink. You know, I think honestly my favorite fall colors together are yellows, oranges, and reds, which is what I was trying to keep in mind when I chose these colors. Now I have the Distress Oxide ink and Spiced Marmalade. This is where we bring in that orange color. And when you stamp this next to that Fossilized Amber the first time, it doesn't look like there is a really big difference, but when you stamp it over again, you can really see that color pop outside of that yellow. Now, the third layer I have on there, and this one is the Hero Arts Soft Brown to Cup of Joe Ombre ink pad. Again, I want darkest on the bottom, lightest up on the top. You could pick another red ink color, but I thought that the brown would be pretty cool on this one, and it kind of shake it up a bit. So I chose to go with this one. And also, it looks a little bit different than that tree trunk. Now, this one is the Hero Arts Red Royal ink pad. And again, I'm going to double stamp it. And oh man, it just pops with those yellows and oranges. I just love it. So for the Distress Oxide ink on my third tag, I'm using Fired Brick. You could also use Candied Apple. That would give you a much brighter red. But I thought that a little bit more muted for the Fired Brick would look just beautiful, and a little bit more cohesive than a bolder color such as Candied Apple. All right, so now we're going to stamp the sentiment on the front. This is actually a single strip. It normally, the Autumn Blessings normally comes attached in the stamp set, but I cut them in half because I want to stack them on top of each other. I want to make sure that there's enough room. I do not want the sentiment to overlap onto the tree because the font on the stamp and the leaves, they're going to get lost within each other, and then you wouldn't be able to tell what it said. So I've cut them in half. I had both of them lined up on there just so I could make sure I knew where I wanted them to begin with. I pulled the second one off so I can stamp the word Autumn. I'm using the Hero Arts Cup of Joe ink, and I've double stamped that as well, just like I did everything else. And now I'm going to add the blessings on there, and I am making sure that I'm tucking that just up underneath the word autumn. The one thing that you need to keep in mind when you're making a clean and simple card is it is all about the white space. The more white space you have on there, the better off you are, and the cleaner, obviously, it looks. So that's what I'm trying to do as I stamp things on there, and I'm pretty sure that my sentiments aren't stamped on there straight, but whatevs, folks, we're just going to keep on trucking. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish these off with a little bit of Copic coloring. You could leave them just as they are right now, but I wanted them to look a little bit more grounded onto the card without giving up any more of that white space that I've been trying to keep. And this is always a good technique. It's really easy to do, it goes really fast, and it does not take a whole lot of effort, and it does not take up a whole lot of space on your card or on your tag. So now I have the E21, and I'm just barely touching the tip of my marker to my tag, and I'm just kind of mapping out where everything needs to start with to begin with. Now I'm in with the E29. This is my darkest color, and I'm being really conservative with this because you don't want the eye to be drawn to too much darkness at the bottom of the tag when it's complete. Otherwise, you'll lose all of the work that you put into stamping in those gorgeous trees. Now I had the E25, and I'm just blending in that E29 with that. Now I have the E23, and I'm bringing it out just a little bit further as I go, but I'm not going to do much more after this. And my marker is barely touching the tip of my paper, and I'm skipping. So I'm not drawing consistent full lines. I'm just kind of skipping across the panel so you can get the idea that there's a little bit of texture there, because the ground isn't going to be completely smooth. You don't want your coloring to be completely smooth. You just want it to make it look like there is a ground there, but you don't want it to be like one great big circle underneath the tree, because that's not what it would look like in real life. So now I'm just barely blending out that last E23 with the E21. Now I have noticed E21 is one of those Copic markers that will really, really bleach out a darker Copic. So I'm trying to keep that in mind and be really careful with it, so everything blends like it should, but I still have that texture left intact. Now I'm taking a couple of the little blades of grass that were in the stamp set, and I'm stamping those with Cup of Joe, and I'm just using my acrylic block because they're itty bitty, super easy to stamp on there. You could leave them off, but I really like how it finishes it off. Now, instead of embellishments, the one thing that I am going to do is I'm going to use the Jelly Roll Stardust pin. This is by Sakura, and I am only going over the lightest color that I stamped with on each of these tags. So for instance, the lightest color on this tag was the Butter Bar. So I'm just adding this over the top to only anything that was stamped in Butter Bar. If I can see a sliver of a leaf that had been stamped in Butter Bar, I only go over that tiny little sliver. So what happens is when it's complete, it looks like the light is hitting just those leaves, and it's giving it a little bit of sparkle and shine like it might do in nature. Now, obviously, nature generally doesn't glitter like this, or leaves generally don't glitter like this, but it still gives the eye that illusion. So I'm going to use some May Arts twine. I have had this spool of twine for ages, and I thought that it'd probably be a good idea to get some of it used up, because I'm pretty sure that this is going to get willed to my grandchildren someday. Now, a trick for me is I wrap it around my tag halfway, and it essentially doubles it up for the length. And normally what happens when you do this is it gives you just the right amount of what you would need to hang it on anything, and it doesn't look like you have too much, it's not too little, it's perfect. It's a trick I used a long time ago. If you struggle with how much you need, that's always a good approach. And they're done, folks. I know it's really hard to see that sparkle on the video, but in real life, it really makes a difference. It really makes those lighter leaves stand out that much more. So I really enjoyed making these. I actually did about 12 of them in total. I think all 12 of them took me about 45 minutes, and that's not counting the filming process and getting everything ready for that. So if you're looking for a clean and simple tag, whether it's fall, Christmas, it doesn't matter what theme it is, this is always a good way to go. You wouldn't even necessarily need to use a color layering stamp set, although that did make it that much easier. You could use anything you'd like and just do some simple coloring and call it a day. You'd be good to go. And that is it, folks. I really hope you enjoyed my clean and simple tags today. Do be sure to head over to my blog for more details and links, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Also be sure to hit that bell next to the subscribe button so you can receive all future notifications. Thanks again so much for stopping by. Until next time.